Hello, I thought I would just make a quick video giving you a guided tour of what's been done and specifically what's been done that's relevant to the problems that you were originally having with the machine. As you remember, I've redone the Ultimate 1 megabyte installation, but it turned out that wasn't really directly relevant to your problem. It didn't change the behaviour of the machine at all with the Side 3 cartridge, although it's a lot neater and more sturdy now than it was before. I'll just consider that a courtesy, just me tidying things up and trying to eliminate any other variable factors from the troubleshooting process. So once I've done things the way I like to see them done, then at least I know that works. Specifically, what we had here was the problem was with the RAM. So that was one of the DRAM chips that were over here in the bank of 8 RAM chips. I only noticed last night that after messing around with the side cartridges, from the emails, that it was a 3764 chip. Now, I looked this up briefly on the internet. I couldn't find all that much discussion about these RAM chips. I think I found something on a Commodore forum where they were described as completely functionally identical to 4164s. There's various different numbering schemes for the things anyway. There's sometimes 4464s, but anyway, 4164s and 4464s. I think this one, there's a 4864. There's so many different numbering schemes, but I'd never ever come across a 3764. So I don't know who put these in. It may have worked perfectly well until Side 3 came along. I don't know, it seemed to. So I thought, anyway, I wonder what would happen, because I was completely out of ideas by this point. I'd replaced capacitors and stuff to get rid of that black interference on the video, the bars. I wonder what will happen if I put the standard RAM, if you like, in the machine. Well, I put the standard RAM in and it completely fixed everything. The machine started to work. I've got a Side 3.1 cartridge that I've just bought from Retro Lemon, so it's had no alterations done to it. I put that in your machine after I changed the RAM. Worked fine, no problems. So why these things cause that video interference when the cartridge is present, I don't know. And it wasn't just your cartridge. That was a sort of a testing error. I did discover after the event that I could reproduce that video problem with any Side 3 or Side 3.1 cartridge. So it was pretty frustrating actually to find that really all I needed to do, if I'd noticed that those strange RAM chips were in the board when the machine first arrived, is change the RAM, and that would have fixed everything. But, well, not quite anyway. When I fitted this RAM into the board, I've got a picture of the board that I took when it first arrived here, which I'll flash up on the screen for you. There was a mixture of sockets here. Somebody socketed the RAM, and I remember correctly, the bottom 3 sockets were machine sockets, dual wipe machine sockets, like these 3. Well, all of these I've used dual wipe machine sockets here. And the top 5 were precision sockets, or turned sockets as they're sometimes called, and they hadn't been installed very well. And the thing is with the turned or precision sockets, which is like this type, this is a precision socket. So obviously you've got those turned legs. The problem with them, particularly with smaller chips like DRAMs, is they can be a bit loose, and you often get a situation where the legs of the chip won't make good contact in the socket. And I was finding that with these perfectly good DRAMs that I'd put in. I think it was particularly this one. I think it was the 3rd one from the back, or the 4th one from the back. I was getting yellow screen boots and just booting to a black screen unless I sort of pushed on the chip. And I wasn't happy with that at all, because some of these precision sockets as well, the other thing is when they'd been installed, so they'd been overheated a bit and sort of singed, and some of the socket legs were a bit higher than others. And I thought, I'm just sick of messing around. I've got a working machine now, and I'm being hampered by crappy socket work. So I took them off. I took the whole lot of the sockets off. It was quite a fight, actually, because these precision sockets particularly are difficult to get off the board. And the solder used to put the sockets on was lead-free solder, and it was particularly awful stuff with a very high melting temperature, and it kept clogging up the desoldering gun. So I was constantly unclogging the desoldering gun. Very, very frustrating indeed. Anyway, I got the whole lot off. There was flux and melted plastic all over the place. So I was really in up to my neck. But anyway, I persevered with it. And I cleaned the board, boiling water and fairy liquid, scrubbed it to get all the flux and the horrible mess, sticky mess off the board. Pinged out all the traces to make sure that nothing had got broke. But no, everything pinged out. So I got some nice new dual wipe sockets, installed them earlier on tonight. Put the same RAM back in, all fits nice and snug, great contact, powered the machine up and it worked perfectly. So that's it, fixed, everything fixed. Another thing I did, as I think I told you about, is I put a socket under the 74LS08 chip, so it's now got a 74F08 chip, which is a slightly more responsive part. It's side 3 appears to approve of that kind of change. The Antic socket, I replaced that last week because I wasn't happy with that either. But that was a little bit of a red herring. But anyway, that Antic socket's been replaced. That's better than it was. The CPU got a socket under it when I was trying different CPUs. I've replaced the two 470 microfarad radial electrolytic caps on the board. They were done for. They were bulging at the top. And I've done rewiring, as you can see. This has all been refitted and everything, and the board's been washed. Just about everything under the sun, but only a very limited amount of the work was relevant to the problem, unfortunately. But there you go. You live and learn. So anyway, if we turn your computer on here, we'll go into the loader. Go into the BIOS, go into the side loader, and it was particularly noticeable. The funny thing is that you've got the screen set up with a blue colour scheme, and that made the black bands that were flashing up and down the screen, that made it a lot more noticeable and easy to spot. And that was another thing that was a bit confusing at the beginning. When I was using my side 3 cartridge for a comparison, that's got that set up with a grey colour scheme, and it was much harder to spot the video interference anyway. But you'll see that, obviously because of the camera frame rate, you might see the bands going up there, but they are an effect of the camera. Be assured of that. There's no video interference at all now whatsoever. It would actually, the screen would jump and glitch just when you pressed a key, and also when you opened a directory, you'd get those black bands going across the screen, and that is entirely down to that RAM. I don't know why it is. I don't know if it's got anything to do with RAM refresh or power or whatever. Not sure. I should have probably looked into it, but all I wanted to do was get the thing fixed, and whatever works to fix it, I'm happy with it. But it's rock solid now. As I say, I ran 2 hard disk stability tests. You'll find the RW test and RWCRC are in the C partition on the card, the EPT partition. I ran them. It takes quite a long time for them to run, but the computer just never tripped up at all. It's just absolutely rock solid. I can hit the case and it's absolutely spot on. So your side cartridge has still got those BU245 buffer chips, but they are, if anything, they are superior to the other ones. Not that it makes any difference, because the stock cartridge works just as well with this machine now as yours does. So I've left them in there rather than work on the board further and risk any mishaps. But yeah, so that's it, all done. So you should have a great experience with this when you get it back, hopefully. Thank you for a very interesting Atari 800XL. It's been a been quite a journey, but it was the RAM all along.